Okay, next we'll see about process termination, destroy a process. Okay, so that is process termination. So process termination in operating system, the process termination is a technique. What is it? This process termination is a technique in which a process is terminated. A process is terminated and release the CPU after completing the execution. Okay, so what is process termination? Is a technique in which a process is terminated and release the CPU after completing the execution. Okay, so whenever a process is terminated, yes, automatically it will be released from the CPU. So how this can be happened? So most of the operating system use exit of method. What is it? Most of the operating system will be using this exit of system call. We can say it is a system call method. Okay, so exit of system call to terminate the process. So what are the main causes of process termination? Yes, we'll see what are the main causes. What are the main reasons for process termination? So what are the main causes of termination? So there are some reasons are there to terminate the particular process. How the process are being get terminated. So the first cause, we can say it's a normal completion. We can say it's a normal completion. So what does it mean? So which means a process completes all tasks and releases the CPU. So which means once the process completes all of its tasks, okay, when the process completes all of its task, okay, then automatically it releases the CPU. This is one cause. And this next causes we can say protection error. So for this reason, okay, the process will get terminated. What is the next one is what? Yes, it should be a protection error. What is it? If the process wants to use a resource that is not allowed to use by that process. See for example, I tell you, for example, if a process, so process means either is a parent process or it may be a child process. Okay, so if a process wants to write on a file, so the process wants to write on a particular file. Okay, so that does read only, but it's already, what is it? It is in the read only mode. So if the file it is in the read only mode means the process can be able to view that particular file. We cannot able to write. So if a process wants to write something on the particular file, but the process is already it is in the read mode. So that time it causes a termination. Okay, so that time the process will get terminated. So these two causes. The next cause is parent request. What is it? Parent request. So what is this parent request? If a parent process request for terminating the child process, this is our parent process. Okay, so it has some child parent and these are the child process. Okay, if the parent process request for terminating the child process, then the child should be terminated. Is it clear? So this is another way of the process get terminated. The next one is IO failure. What is it? IO failure. So when a process attempts to use an IO device, Okay, when the process attempts to use an IO device and an IO device is not working at that particular moment. Yes, say for example, okay, for example, we can say for example, a process wants to print a file on a printer. Okay, a process wants to print one, a process wants to print a file on the printer. Okay, the process is interested, process wants to print a particular file on the printer, but the printer is defective. Imagine like that. Yes, but the printer is defective. So automatically the process will get terminated. Okay, so next reason is parent termination. We can say parent termination. Parent termination. So when a parent is not in the CPU, if this parent is not in the CPU, okay, the child process cannot exist in the CPU. Is it clear? If the parent is not in the CPU, then automatically the child process cannot exist in the CPU. So when the parent is terminated, the child process also needs to be terminated. Okay, so parent, okay, so if when a parent is terminated, when the parent is terminated, then the child process also needs to be terminated. Is it clear? Yes, is it clear? Okay, the next reason we can say, what we can say is a memory requirement. Memory requirement. Okay, so a process requires more memory to execute, isn't it? A process that requires more memory to execute, but the system fails to provide enough memory to the process for its execution. So that time the process needs to be terminated. Yes, is it clear? A process needs more memory to execute. Okay, but the system fails to provide that much of memory for the particular process for the particular execution. So that time the process may also get terminated. Okay, so these are all some main causes of process termination. Okay, next we'll see okay, next is changing a priority of a process. Changing a priority of a process. So this is another operation on process. So normally this changing a priority of a process normally involves modifying the priority value. Modifying the priority value in the processes control block. Okay, so what is a changing a priority value? Sorry, priority of a process is normally involves modifying the priority value. So each process will have some value, priority value. So modifying the priority value in the process control block. So depending on how the operating system implements process scheduling, it may need to place a pointer to the PCB, that is process control block, in a different priority queue. So we will see this changing a priority of a process in detail in the upcoming chapter. Okay, so that is process scheduling. So in this process scheduling, so in this chapter, okay, so we'll discuss briefly about this changing a priority of the process. Okay.